both saw Luca Guadagnino's new movie, Bones and All,
Yes.
with everybody's favourite human triangle, which is my sign today, by the way, is the human triangle, Timothee Chalamet,
Yes.
and Taylor Russell, and Mark Rylance, and in a very, very ploddingly paced, quite haunting, I suppose, is a good word to use for
Yeah.
Bones and All. Fairly bleak, ridiculously heavily emotional cannibal romance movie.
Yes. So in terms of um innovative kind of original ideas, I think
Yeah,
this was a really kind of interesting take on a story. You kind of
it
have
is.
these people who exist as eaters, that it's just an inherent thing they're born with, they can't really help it. And
It's kind of
this
generational, we come to
yes.
learn, isn't it?
Yes, something that is, kind of passes down through, a family member,
Yeah.
and yeah, I think it's an interesting kind of character study to have it not just be people who like to eat people, it's literally an inherent part of your nature that you can't control and you have to feed it. So yeah, a very kind of interesting original story idea, I think, and one I was really curious about. And I think I maybe misconstrued elements of the trailer a little bit because this is kind of the story that I got from the trailer. Is, this girl has this thing where she has to eat people. She's now on her own. She meets Timothy Chalamet. They kind of fall in love, and they're a bit of not so much a Bonnie and Clyde, but they're kind of just on the run and kind of have made up their own rules in terms of how they handle their need for eating,
Yeah.
right? And they meet Mark Rylance, and he's kind of a wiser eater, so he kind of lays out some ground rules for them that it's not good to ever eat other eaters.
Yeah.
And then we meet kind of our redneck eaters, played by Michael Stuhlbarg and David Gordon Green, director of the new Halloween trilogy.
Yeah. And who
And
I do think, and now David Gordon Green and Michael Stuhlbarg are actually only in like one scene, really,
yes,
of the
but the
whole movie.
trailer for me made it seem like
I
they
don't know
were
if
eaters who broke those rules and didn't care about eating other eaters. So that this was going to be a situation now where our couple in love was going to have to kind of be on the run from these
yeah.
two characters, and then it
I
was not any of that at all.
I don't know if then maybe the US and the UK got slightly different trailers then, because I don't necessarily remember thinking that. I must say I kind of viewed it as an on the run type movie. Maybe they had, you know, their
Eaten
their their
somebody and got
desire,
caught. Yeah.
precisely, their desire to feed had overcome them, and they, had reasonably publicly eaten somebody and had to
Yeah.
flee, basically.
Yeah.
I did think that was going to be the majority of the movie, but it's not entirely about that. I mean, it's a little bit like that. There's certainly drifters. There's certainly, just kind of randomly going from place to place, but certainly Taylor Russell, our female lead, has her kind of emotional goal, and she's looking for her mother that she's never known.
Yeah. Who
Um,
she's realizing she got this from,
exactly.
and she wants to understand it.
Her dad, who we are with at the beginning of the movie, is played by that guy from Moonlight,
Moonlight, yeah.
who I always think should be playing Marvin Gaye in the biopic of Marvin Gaye,
Ah, that is
if
good.
there was ever one. I
Yeah,
just think he would fit that perfectly, and he
that's
kind of
good.
looks a little bit like Marvin Gaye.
Yeah.
Just a just a little bit. I apologize for that noise I just made. Um, I'm trying to hold in a cough, I think, for some reason. Um, but no, I think he's great again in this movie. It's heavy with emotion.
Yeah.
throughout this movie.
Heartbreaking that he has to leave her because he's just at his wit's end. He doesn't know what to do. He can't control her. He doesn't want to, like, restrict her from living her life. But the fact that, like, he can't control her. And so it's like this tiring effort of having to pack up and move all the time
Yeah,
just to try to have some normalcy. He just can't do it anymore. He
and
can't help her anymore. And
it's
she doesn't listen
really
to him really. So
no, it's really quite shocking when we first see her feed in this movie, really, because it kind of opens. She's at school. She's kind of half trying to make friends. She's clearly new at this school. They
yeah.
invite her to kind of a sleepover situation. And she goes, and she sneaks out, really, because she's kind of not supposed to be allowed out. And they seem to be having a perfectly nice time, right up until the point one of the girls puts their fingers too close to her mouth, and she just eats the
Chomps
thing.
it up. Yeah.
She just straight up just starts munching on the girl's finger.
Yeah.
And let's call it what it is as well. This is an exceedingly gory movie at times.
Yes.
And so it should be. So it should be. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
a
I mean, it's a
horror movie.
no, but
It's a tragic romance, if anything else. I suppose Luca Guadagnino quite likes a tragic romance, doesn't he? Especially one starring Timothée
Timothy
Chalamet.
Chalamet, yeah.
Um, I think he's got a real interesting aesthetic as a movie maker, though. I really do love that he takes a lot of time with his movies. Nothing in this movie is rushed remotely.
No.
Everything's so you could quite easily call it slow. If you were thinking of the word slow as a positive, call it slow, because it's a very slow movie. It does not rush a single damn
No.
thing. It
You get to
lets
breathe through this, and I like that.
a lot a lot. You move really smoothly from kind of situation to situation,
To
meeting
month to month, place to place.
yeah, meeting these different characters. Mark Rylance, who comes across as really kind of creepy in this movie, and later on in the movie, we kind of understand why he's comes across originally as a little bit creepy. It's
Yeah.
because he kind of really is.
Yeah.
Um, Again, Mark Rylance is doing his kind of stuttery, weird thing with his mouth and with his
I'm a
voice that
scary
he
old
does.
man. I'm just a sad old man. Mark Rylance. I'm a sad old man.
I actually think he fits the role really well, though.
Yes.
I do think he fits this
Just kind
role
of
really well.
looking for a companion who will
Yeah,
understand him.
because it's a movie about severe, crippling loneliness,
Yes.
addiction. It's treated, the need to feed, the
Yeah.
cannibalism is treated as an addiction they're treated as junkies almost, aren't they? They're thought of
Yeah,
as
like,
junkies.
Timothée Chalamet's character is described as a junkie, like, someone saying, "I can sense it," that, like, he's a junkie. He
Yeah,
thinks, he thinks he has it under control, but he really doesn't.
yeah, and it's really about the kind of fragility of, I suppose, personal control, the fragility of emotion,
Yeah.
and and really mainly kind of loneliness. It gives you hope in elements. In certain times of the movie, you feel a kind of wave of positivity
Yes, like,
that
maybe
keeps.
there's hope for a more normal life. Maybe, we can actually maybe feel some type of guilt for what we're doing because, through a lot of it, they don't feel bad for what they're doing, but
No, because they
I think
realize it's just simply what they have to do. They're kind of trying to think of it like that.
yeah, but I think, our lead, she starts to feel bad that she doesn't feel bad, so
She does.
she starts kind of building this kind of moral rule for herself.
Yeah. And because she doesn't really know any clarity on why she is the way she is, it's more difficult for her.
Yeah.
Like, Chalamet is aware of why he is the way he is. He's got his own past
Yeah.
difficulties that he kind of has to,
Navigate.
over the course of the movie, has to navigate, has to not get over, but confront.
Front, yes, because he's very much avoidant of why he is the way he is and, his past.
But he doesn't know why. And Taylor Russell doesn't really even know why. She just is, and that's her struggle. And
Yes, because her father wouldn't yeah, her father would
Yeah,
never tell her anything about her mother.
when she meets Mark Rylance for the first time, she's kind of overwhelmed by him because he's so sure of himself. He knows exactly kind of what he's doing as this older eater who's clearly been
Yes.
doing it for decades.
Even the fact that he could smell her and she didn't even realize that that was a sense that she could use like that.
Yeah. And he has this kind of strict rule. He doesn't eat other eaters.
Yeah.
He also has this really creepy braid of hair
Yes, when
that
he
he
eats somebody, he takes some their hair and braids it into this long kind of strand as to remember each person.
there's some really uncomfortable scenes with Mark Rylance in this movie. I
Yeah.
do think he's giving a brilliantly uncomfortable performance.
Yes, yes.
I really do. I really did appreciate what he was doing in this movie, to be fair. And as much as I make fun of Chalamet for being the human triangle that he is, because he does look like a Dorito if you look at the shape of his face.
Oh,
I
no.
really do like him as an actor. I always like him when I see him
Yes.
in movies.
Yeah,
I think he's wonderful, and I think
he's
he's
great.
great in this as well. I think him and Luca Guadagnino clearly work really well
Well
together,
together.
clearly
Mhm. Yeah,
get on, clearly understand each other.
and the
And
vision for the story, yeah,
yeah, but the lead is Taylor Russell. She is our protagonist, and she's
yeah.
doing a phenomenal job herself. There's one particularly horrible crying scene in the movie where just she's got snot all over her face. It's really
Yeah,
disgusting.
yeah, it got some reactions from my crowd for sure. Yeah, and he just kind of leaves that on the screen
He does.
because
He
it's
does.
just real, you
It's a
know?
raw movie. It
Yeah,
feels
it's very
very
real.
raw. It feels very real. For being obviously about a group of inherent addicted cannibals, it's one of the most realistic kind of cannibal movies you can remember. I can remember seeing. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, and I mean that in terms of the fact they actually feel like human beings and not like villains.
Yes.
They because they do very much feel like just addicts, and I think that's a really interesting
Yeah.
angle to put it. It reminds me of the movie Ganja and Hess, which is it's a vampire movie, 1973 with Dwayne Jones from Night of the Living Dead, and Bill Gunn directed this movie. He also actually stars in the movie, but you think it's kind of a more highbrow version of Blackula, and it's not. It's a movie about a vampire's addiction to blood. It's about addiction. They're treated very much as drug
Yeah.
addicts in that movie.
It's something they just can't control, but they want to. And I like that um her father, she's listening to these tapes gradually, and when it gets kind of too difficult, she kind of just cuts it off. So we're as the audience are getting little segments of her story
Yeah,
with along with her. And so even him who knows her probably the best, he's even understanding of the fact that he's like, even when you did these things, you didn't seem guilty or sad about it, but I could tell that, like, if you if you didn't want if you could choose to not be this, you would choose to not be
yeah,
this. So
exactly.
the fact that he's able to kinda see that about her, we can see her as not a villain, because
It is
somebody who knows
just
her the best understands that it's just something unavoidable, something she cannot help.
it is just such a sad movie at times, such a
Yes, it's
tragic
heartbreaking.
movie at times.
Mhm.
Because, like we said, it gives you these shreds of hope. They
Yes,
look
that a normal, happy life is attainable.
it's like, yeah, I think it's about 3/4 of the way through the movie that you
Yeah.
just feel like, "Oh my god, this might have a really happy ending,"
Yeah.
and just it just kills you when it doesn't.
Yeah.
It just really kills you when it doesn't. I felt every pang of pain in my heart for these characters, and I think it's
Yeah.
beautiful that I did that. It's a beautifully made movie. It's a beautiful to look at
Look
movie.
at. It looks great, and we're kind of just driving across America with them, seeing these beautiful kind of landscapes and being on the
Great
road, and you feel it,
planes.
and even kind of the camera, like, the shaking of the truck. We're following the truck, and the
Yeah.
camera's shaking, so you feel like you're kind of in the truck with them. Like, these really interesting camera moves and just showing us kind of these lush landscapes, and just you really feel like you're on this journey with them.
And
Um
even the scenes of feeding, they feel quite, they're not condemned, are they? They feel quite intimate. They feel like very personal kind of scenes. They feel like not necessarily like you're spying on someone doing something, but you feel like you're watching someone doing something they don't do in public, but you feel like you're watching someone doing something that's very important to them, and
Yes, well, no,
that's
I agree
only
when
them,
you
just kind of something for
just
them.
for them. Yes, when you say intimate, I definitely agree with that. There are scenes where, we see kind of them lean in for the first bite, and then the camera will cut away to the area, and you'll
Yeah.
just hear, and then the sound design is just you hear them chewing and biting and sucking, and, you just hear the sounds of them eating,
It
and
could be nasty. You could view it
it's
as really,
yes,
really
it's
nasty.
very visceral
Very
and,
visceral.
and a bit animalistic, and, very kind of nature. They try to make it feel like,
Yeah. I
Yeah.
also think it does what a lot of great kind of cannibal movies tend to, is really put you off eating meat. A lot of cannibal movies, when you actually think about it, are really kind of pro-vegan and
Yeah,
things like
a little
this.
bit, a little
I
bit.
remember, uh, Raw, the movie Raw, Julia Ducournau,
Mhm.
2016, the French movie, is just the most pro-vegan movie possible.
Yeah.
The main character is a vegetarian right up until she becomes a cannibal,
Oh my
and she's
gosh.
at vet school, and she's really uncomfortable around the blood. It's a great movie, a coming of
Yeah,
age movie, but a coming of age movie that involves being a cannibal.
yeah.
There's actually a really, I mean, talk about intimacy. I mean, this movie doesn't necessarily go this far with it, but there is a scene in Raw of her, our lead girl, performing oral intimacy on another girl, but just eating her
Oh
instead.
my gosh.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's really, it's nasty. I mean, Luca Guadagnino, I suppose, is treating cannibals sensitively without any kind of elements of horror.
Yeah.
There's no elements of horror in this movie. Julia Ducournau now is a weirdo who likes making body horror movies. I
Yeah.
look at Titane as well. I don't know if you saw that,
No.
the movie
Mm-mm.
about the car baby, the woman who has intimate relations with a car.
Oh, yes, I've heard of that, yes.
Another French is Julia Ducournau. Now I think she's great. I want to see every movie she makes. It's deeply, deeply original, and nobody's got a brain like her in kind of modern horror, because there are elements of horror, but kind of dramatic, very dramatic horror, very kind
Yes.
of emotional horror.
Yeah.
Um, so it doesn't quite get that far, Bones at all,
Yes.
in terms of
Yes, I think it teeters the
nastiness.
line, and I think it teeters the line of, like, you think it might be veering towards feeling horror, and then it goes
Yeah.
it steps away from the line.
Certainly when Michael Stuhlbarg and David Gordon Green do show up for that one
Yeah.
scene, I think that, I mean, why have they got such creepy faces, both of them?
Actually lit by
Just
firelight.
just naturally creepy
Yeah.
faces. I never realized how unsettling David Gordon Green's smile was.
Yeah.
it's really creepy. I mean, Michael
Yeah.
Stuhlbarg, okay, I understand it there, especially when he's dressed like the way he is in this movie.
Yeah.
I can't even describe what he looks like. He looks like Leatherface's long-lost twin.
Yeah.
He looks just like the most unclean person you've ever seen in your
Yes, he
entire
looks very
life.
dirty, he looks very dirty. But yes, and then I think also lighting them with firelight and kind of, that whole kind of, you know, campfire look of telling a
Yeah,
creepy story and,
and
you
that's
know,
what they're doing in
the
that scene, I
the
suppose, isn't
kind of
it? They're
very
telling a
creepy
story.
angles it flashes on your face and yeah.
Yeah, you do feel pretty scared in that sense because you do feel like Michael Stuhlbarg is the kind of eater that has no
Wouldn't has
rules.
no qualms about eating other eaters. So, yes, like, in the trailer when they kind of showed them and then, like, I think when they showed them, you heard the voiceover of Michael, or of Mark Rylance kind of saying the line about, "You never eat other eaters." That's,
Ah,
I think,
okay.
where I got that. So I thought it was gonna be a bit of a kind of a Doctor Sleep thing, like, you have your gang of
Ah, okay.
eaters
Yeah.
who don't care about those rules and,
Okay.
will consume others like them.
It's it's just a fascinating movie. I
Yes.
felt so heavily with this movie. I knew I would kind of be into it. I just didn't know how much it would emotionally affect me.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm glad about that or not. Like, why is this movie about a cannibal romance so heartbreaking?
Yeah.
It's because it's just brilliantly made. It's not an easy movie to watch. I think it's a
No,
really
no.
tough movie. But my God, is it a wonderful movie?
And you're just kind of wondering, where is this gonna go? Is there hope at the end of this, you know?
And you want
Um,
there to be.
and
You
yes,
stick to that. You
yeah,
try and stick to that. Even at the ending, there's kind of it almost ends with the attitude of just for a minute we had it all.
yeah,
And you kind of just gotta stick with that.
yeah.
I think even
You
that's what
hold on to that hope, yeah,
the kind of final song of the movie that plays over this final scene
yeah,
and the end credits. I think the main lyrics of that are something very similar to kind of for a moment we had it all,
yeah,
and that is just the thinnest shred of hope
yeah,
or the thinnest shred of positivity you can possibly gain. But it's at least trying to keep that. It's not descending into just pure negativity. You still have that little tiny bit
the shred of hope, yeah,
of hope that eventually, you know, it will be okay for our
yes.
lead character.
Carve out a space for yourself in this world where people tell you you can't,
Yeah.
and yeah, you feel that
But
for a moment.
and you can have those ideas about anything. You can put any kind of outsider into this sense. Just doesn't necessarily have to be a cannibal, cause it could it? You can view this as a depiction of anybody that society deems
An outsider
other,
or yes,
you
or
know?
someone with some kind of addiction that some
Yeah.
uncontrollable thing, you know?
That it would be easy to just get rid of.
Yeah,
It would be easy to just shun, but they're still people.
yeah.
Everybody's a human, no matter how no matter if you like to eat other humans or not.
Or not, yeah.
No matter if you look like a
People are
triangle or
people.
people are
That's
people.
terrible.
People are people. Why am I terrible? Why is that terrible?
Oh, poor Timothy and his triangle
Timothy
face.
Chalamet is a triangle. He is a triangle. But no, I I really, really, really liked this movie. I
Yeah,
don't necessarily think I'll be jumping to watch it again just because of how heavy it is.
yeah.
Well, anytime soon at least, but I will certainly be telling everybody to go and watch it
Yeah, I mean, there's
because I
so
just
many
think it's
interesting
great.
quiet moments in something that is so kind of animalistic and dangerous and
Yeah.
carnal, but you still have these kind of very still moments somehow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Again, beautiful, beautifully paced,
Yes.
beautiful to look at. Guadagnino's a great, great director,
Yeah.
and he's got a distinct vision, a distinct style,
Yeah.
and I always like that. You know, when you've made 4 or 5 movies, or 3 or 4 movies, however many he's made now, and they're all similar in tone and style,
Yeah.
you've got yourself a great director there. You've got yourself a great consistent director. And we need more of them in an original sense, and
Yes.
Guadagnino fits into that perfectly.
Yeah. I believe this was based on a book. So, I don't know how solid of an adaptation it was, but
Well, that's right,
um,
actually, I've forgotten about that.
yeah. So, but in terms of just seeing something different, something a bit original, something that's not, a remake of something else or something that's super in the populace, it was a very beautiful film.
I'd actually forgotten it was a remake. I hope none of my final statement there is, nullified by the fact it's actually a novel. You know what I mean.
Yes,
You know what
yes,
I'm trying to get at.
yes. Mhm.
But yeah, I think it's a great, great movie. Please go
Yeah,
and see Bones and All.
yeah.
It's if you're not full enough from your Thanksgiving meal
Oh,
last
goodness.
week, if you're in America,
Yeah.
you
Make
might be
some
feeling
room
full. Make some room
for bones and
for
all.
people. Yes, wonderful. With a big yay. Great. We should be the advertising board for Bones and All.
We should.
More accurate than the trailer by the sounds of it, Janine. I mean,
Yes, I don't know if I just was projecting my own kind of imagination on it. I don't
I don't know. I don't
know.
know. But yes, there we go, I think, for our Let's Talk today, Janine.